Hello and welcome to today's show. I am Brenda Holt with AARP Arizona. AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With a nationwide presence and nearly 38 million members across the nation and approximately 900,000 in Arizona, ARP strengthens communities and advocates for what matters most to families: health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. In the month of April, AARP helps consumers know what they can do to protect themselves and their loved ones from fraud. Two areas of focus will be gift cards as a form of payment in scams and narrative change for social change. AARP is your wise friend with resources to help consumers spot and avoid scams and a fierce defender that is advocating for better protections on your behalf. Visit us at aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network. Thank you again, and with that, I will turn it over to Marshall.
Ladies and gentlemen, non-binary folk, welcome to the show. Get ready to meet your host for the night, Arizona's very own hip historian himself, Marshall Shore.
Well, hello and good evening. I want to welcome you all to Arizona History Happy Hour. I am so happy that you can be here tonight. Now, I know we've got a handful of people who are watching on a variety of platforms, whether it be YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, LinkedIn, or even Facebook. So I am so happy that you are joining us this evening. We have a great show for you this evening with all kinds of fun stuff going on. So, today, April 13th. Oh my gosh. So let's talk about what happened. So back in 1892, Charles Poston, who is said to be the father of Arizona and kind of really pushed for it to become a state, he filed a homestead on what is now called Hole in the Rock, which became later in 1930 became Papago Park. And I thought it was so interesting that the little article that was mentioning that talks about it as the hole in the rock, but it talks about it's a freak of nature. But I love how he first learned about this from the Papago Indians. And that's when he thought, we need to make sure this place is preserved. And so that's just what he did. Now, also today is the last day of Passover. So this is a particular day where a lot of folks who are Jewish are trying to get to synagogue to say special blessings, prayers, and to be amongst their loved ones, friends, listening and reading from the Torah. And it is also Make Lunch Count Day, because there was recently a study that said 73% of workers in America eat lunch at their desk because of something FOLO, fear of lunching out. So this is a great day to be like, hey, I'm going to do just that. So hopefully you did have a good lunch. If not, you know what? I think tomorrow is a fabulous day for a lunch out. It is also Peach Cobbler Day. Now, what I thought was interesting was looking into the history of this, because they couldn't bake a traditional suet pudding because they lacked ingredients or even cooking equipment. They started making this thing where they would just put biscuits on top of a bunch of stewed fruit, and that became cobbler. Now, it's said that it became cobbler because the surface of all those biscuits looked like a cobblestone road. There's also a story about how that name comes from. It's just all the ingredients kind of cobbled together. I much prefer the fact that it looks like a cobbled street, because I think it does. Now, it is also Plant Appreciation Day. It's a time where we get to celebrate those green oxygen making machines. We get to honor those natural gifts they give us, and discuss the myriad of benefits that a plant provides, whether you're talking to your plant. I've got friends that their houses look like jungles. I don't know how they keep up with all those plants. I'm lucky I keep my plastic plants alive, but I do not have a green thumb by any stretch of the imagination. If you look at my yard, you can definitely tell that. All right. So what can you expect tonight? Well, we always do a little bit of trivia. We have Little Arizona talking about a small town right here in Arizona, as well as some Arizona music history. We have From the Vault, which is something you may or may not drive by, but may wonder what it is, as well as a beverage. And of course, we have a super amazing special guest tonight. You're going to have so much fun. Just you all wait. All right. So if this is your first time watching, you might wonder, who is that man and why is he on my screen? Well, I moved here about 23 years ago from Brooklyn. I was working in this Carnegie building. And, if you take a look at that photo, you'll see there's a bit of snow. That's why I'm here, because you can't shovel sunshine. But I started working on a little library in South Phoenix that was rich with oral tradition of the community. And so that really got me learning about Arizona through people's stories. And so I continue that today, even though I no longer work in a library, but I'm still surrounded by stories and information. We promptly moved into a beautiful 1956 ranch. When we moved in, it was so many tones of beige. I am happy to say now it is a lovely seafoam and cantaloupe. No more of the shutters one color, the brick, the wood, everything was like a different shade of beige. It was a beige nightmare. And there's what my kitchen looks like today. All that buttercream yellow tile. Now you'll notice my stove has no window in it. So if I bake anything in it, I've got to very gingerly shut that door, because otherwise my cake will fall. And nobody likes a flat chocolate cake. All right. Now, as soon as we got here, all I kept hearing about how there was no history here. But I knew that wasn't true, because every time I was on foot, I was on a bike, I was in a car, I was on a bus, I was on a train. Oh gosh, on a plane. No matter where I went, I kept running into so many amazing people, places, and stories. And so that's what got me going and doing a lot of what I'm doing today. Now, my name is Marshall Shore, but I'm also called the Hip Historian. And that means I get to play with Arizona history. And so I'm actually right now working on a book about LGBTQ Phoenix. So hopefully that actually goes to press. The end of this month is Arizona Tiki Oasis. It is 4 days of Polynesian kitsch, and I'm doing at least one program involved with a couple others. So that's going to be a fun event, and that is actually out at the Valley Ho. So if you look up Arizona Tiki Oasis, you can find out more information. And tomorrow morning, bright and early, I am on the Arizona History Convention. We are talking about what the public wants from historians. So that should be a lot of fun. And then, coming up in the middle of next month, we have dinner and a seance down in Bisbee at that amazing Greenway house from 1906. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I also have this Saturday coming up. This may be our next to the last, because it's going to start getting too warm. We shall see. So I know there are still a few tickets left. So feel free to jump on over and buy a couple for you and a friend. It'll be lots of fun. And so I just sent out a save the date. So we are going to be doing on May 23rd, which is a Tuesday. I know not everybody can make it, but we're going to do an afternoon lunch, a big family style thing, where we're going to talk about it's in Mesa. It's all about the new, basically, Asian district they've created and kind of what's along there. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And I see Anders has found the chat. That's great. There is indeed. You can also reach out to me if you don't wind up in the chat, or if you want to say something offline, go right ahead. because I love to hear from you all. Now, talking about Little Arizona. So tonight we are talking about Swaharita, which is a town in Pima County, just a little south of Tucson. Population is about 35,000. What I thought was interesting, it was incorporated as a town back in 1994. Oh my gosh. So now, basically, Swaharita roughly means little swallow. And if you look in the area, it's on the San Javier. It's right just there by the San Javier Reservation, just a little bit of south of San Javier del Bac. And so basically, this area was inhabited by the Hugums for thousands of years. They lived right around the river, and they were able to be a lot of agriculture, growing corn, squash, living off the land. Father Kino comes in and establishes the mission and actually gets Odom to build the mission. And so that is still around. And then I think it's interesting because if you drive a little south of there, you then wind up in Swaharita. Now, what I think is really cool about Swaharita is it's got so much history. I mean, here you have the American Smelting and Refining Company. So you have agriculture, you've got mining. I was actually down in this area on Easter. Sadly, the Discovery Center was closed for this. And also, I didn't get a chance to make it down to Fort Whipple, which is a Harvard University run observatory in the mountains down there. But there is, and I have been before, the amazing Titan Missile Museum that is well worth a stop. And, you know, it was so funny. I was just looking to see what I could find on it. I found kind of a drawing of what it actually looks like underneath the ground. So all you see is a little building that you pop into, and that's all out of sight. And that was all World War II technology. So there we have it for Swaharita. I definitely want to go back and visit and spend more time there and go to the smelting and refining company Discovery Center. I want to discover about smelting. All right. So, you know, it would not be happy hour without a beverage. And so tonight we have the Cat's Pajamas, which is Arizona Distilling Commerce Gin, some fresh lemon. I squeezed it myself, and a little bit of mesquite honey. And you'll see why we have the Cat's Pajamas in just a moment, because we have my friend Kate.
Hello.
So Kate, folks that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I moved to Arizona in 1996 from upstate New York, and I currently am the owner of House Panther is my company and my brand, and it's spelled Haus, and it is basically all things cats and design. So back east, I went to undergraduate at Cornell and I studied environmental design. And then when I came out here, I went to ASU and I studied visual communication design. And then kind of stumbled into this world of cats. I was working at Boone Inc., which is a children's product company, doing marketing and seeing kind of a trend around cool modern things for parents. And I said, well, how come nobody's doing this for cats and cat parents? So I started a blog and it has blown up, and I have product lines, and I've written a couple of New York Times bestsellers about how to design your home for living with cats. Those are co-authored with Jackson Galaxy, the cat behaviorist who had a show, My Cat from Hell, on Animal Planet. And then now I design people's homes. I design shelters for cats, and I have a studio downtown in Bragg's Pie Factory on Grand Avenue, where I've been for 12 years now. And that's where I kind of do all my design work, and I make a lot of handmade cat toys, which you maybe have seen around town. They have some at Noble Beast. They have some down at Strawberry Hedgehog, and at the Cat Cafe, La Guitarra, downtown Phoenix. And I also designed the environment at the Cat Cafe.
Oh, I didn't realize you designed.
I
That's why it's so cool down there.
Thanks.
Indeed. And and I love Noble Beast, but
Of course.
all
So
right.
I live in Central Phoenix with my husband, and we currently have 12 cats.
Wow. I have a feeling a large number of cats may come up again.
Yes, we're going to talk about cats today. We have a couple here. There's some, you can see them.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's one hiding in the
He's in the
honeycomb.
Yeah. And then there's one up there, and there's a couple more here, and you might see more wander in and out.
Very good. Well, I look forward to, you'll have to point them out as we get closer. All right. So we've got trivia coming up. Now, what is unique about our trivia is all the questions are multiple choice, so you don't have to guess at not knowing the answer, because one of those is the right answer. And I will let Kate talk a little about who we're talking about this evening. Because, I mean, it's funny because I actually threw a note off to, you've got the Arizona Art Association, which is looking to take over the old Carnegie Library downtown and turn it into a basically just Arizona artist collection, which I think is really cool.
That's really cool.
All right. So who are we talking about tonight?
So my obsession with an artist named Karen Kuykendall. And so as we go through our trivia, we're going to learn a little bit about what she did in Arizona, her type of work, and her connection to cats. So she is a cat lady, and I know her through that world, and now through just being completely obsessed with her artwork, which I will show you some of because I love it.
And indeed, I know. It's like I started looking at it, it's like, oh my gosh. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll go through the questions now and the answers. We'll take a little bit of an Arizona music break and then come back and then talk about those answers. And I'm sure so much more. All right. So where in Arizona did Karen primarily live? Was she A, in Mesa, B, Casa Grande, C, Pine, or D, Sedona? So where do you think Karen lived? And that's why it's a multiple choice, because if you don't know who she is, you have no idea where she lives, but you soon will. All right. So what subjects did she focus on in her art? Oh my gosh. Okay. Was it A, Native Americans, B, ancient Egyptians, C, 60s and 70s hippie inspired art, D, cats, E, fantasy sci-fi, F, political cartoons, or G, Adolf Hitler and the Third Reich? Wow, that's quite an assortment. I can hardly wait to hear what the story is behind that. Oh my gosh. All right. Which of these professional organizations was Karen involved with? Was it A, the Arizona Humane Society, B, the Cat Writers Association, C, the Dog Writers Association? Oh, why not the No Bird Writers Association? We didn't.
There might be one.
Or was it D, the ASPCA? So which one of those organizations do you think Karen was involved with? All right. So question 4, where can you see Karen's art collection today? Is it A, the Phoenix Art Museum, B, Tucson Art Museum, C, the Mesa Historical Museum, or D, Casa Grande Art Museum? All right. And question 5, how many cats did Karen have? Was it A, 3, B, 11, C, 16, or D, 21? Oh my gosh. Well, all right. I am sure there's a story there, but we are going to go on. So we are actually at this moment, we are locking in your final answer. So that way we can talk a little bit about some Arizona music, and we'll come back and talk about those answers and so much more. All right. So we are going to talk a little bit about tonight about a group that was formed here in Arizona back in 1981, JFA, or Jodie Foster's Army. They were a skate punk band, and they were named in 1981. You might remember that there was an attempt on Ronald Reagan's life as president by John Hinckley Jr., and he was obsessed with Jodie Foster. And so that's why they named the band JFA. Now, they started playing, did a lot locally, wound up doing their first album and going on the road back in the early 80s. They've done since that time over 8 albums with many collaborations and a compilation album since then. So if you're a fan of punk, I think a couple of the members originally went on to Sun City Girls. So they are steeped in the Arizona punk scene. And actually, I'm trying to get a guest to come on and talk just about that punk scene that was here in Arizona. All right. So I know some people, I'm sure, are ready for some answers because those questions, oh my gosh. All right. So are you ready, Kate?
Yes, I am.
All right. So where in Arizona did Kate primarily live?
Karen. Yeah.
Oh,
Karen
yes.
lived. Karen lived in the Casa Grande. So she was actually born in San Diego in 1928. And then in the 50s, she visited Arizona and she absolutely fell in love with the desert landscape, which you will see in some of her art. So she came to Arizona then and got her master's of art history at the University of Arizona, and then eventually moved to Casa Grande, where she stayed for the rest of her life.
Wow. Most people want to do the reverse of go from Arizona to San Diego.
I know, right?
Yeah, not the, hey, I'm in San Diego. Hey, I want to go to Arizona and stay.
Yeah. And I also read that when she grew, as growing up in San Diego, she was obsessed with going to the San Diego Zoo. And that is where she started to really study, especially the big cats. She loved all the animals, but she really was fascinated with the big cats. So to have that kind of a zoo, available to her, really, you're going to see that influence in her artwork.
Oh yeah. No, because that zoo is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Oops. All right. So what subjects did she focus on in her art?
So it's actually H. All of the above.
Exactly. All of the above. We're not above a little trickery here at all. So indeed, no matter what you put down as an answer, guess what? You're right.
Yes. So I don't know if anybody is familiar with her work, but that's what we're hoping to do here tonight, is to just show this amazing artwork. And so she had this huge range throughout her career. She worked in a ton of different styles and also lots of different media. She studied advertising illustration at the Art Center College in Los Angeles. And then she actually went on to study motion picture costume design at Chouinard Art Institute, which is now part of Cal Arts.
Oh.
Yeah. And then she actually wound up teaching art here in the Arizona Public Schools and at Central Arizona College, as well as at U of A.
Oh, so she was in Coolidge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was just there over the weekend. And it's so funny. It's like you get off the 10 and you think there's nothing. And then suddenly there's this university.
Yep. And she was there right early when it opened up. I believe it opened in 1969 or 71.
Yeah, it's been there for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I've seen a report somewhere that There was a piece of her art hanging outside the president's office at one point called Arizona Citizens. And then that was gifted to one of the employees. And it was like a squirrel and a cat and a bear or something in her style. That was signed 1969. So that I would love to track that down, or a photo of that down. So her style, early on in her career, she really did come kind of straight out of the gate focusing on science fiction and fantasy art. But when she was trying to be a real artist, that all got kind of poo-pooed because basically it was being seen as much more of illustration, which is what she studied. So it wasn't really being considered real art. So she kind of put that aside and did some other different styles and different different content. But then around 1977, she started attending sci-fi conventions. So she started in Southern California, like in Los Angeles, and she started exhibiting some of these paintings and selling them. And there was a big audience in the sci-fi convention fantasy art world. And so she was very well received there. And she thought, okay, here we are. These people like my stuff. Let's do this. So she self-published. Actually, there isn't any text in it. I just got this from a little bookseller in Tucson. I ordered it online and it just got here today. I'm so excited about it. So this, we're going to talk more about all her books, but this is the first book that she published, and it is a lot of those fantasy art drawings. I mean, they are incredible. They're incredible. And so these are the ones that have, it's actually based on an entire world that she created called the Outer Regions, which is a fantasy universe inhabited by these beautiful, sophisticated people and a lot of cats. And they are all in these very deserty landscapes, just very foreign and sort of otherworldly. And they're inspired a lot by the deserts of Arizona, as well as southern Utah, where she did spend a lot of time. And so she published this, which eventually then she got hired by US Games to make a tarot deck out of this concept. So it's the outer regions, the people of the outer regions, and then but the major arcana and the minor arcana. So 78 individual unique drawings of the people from the outer regions, and each one has cats in it. They're so good. So this is like seriously some of my favorite art. And it's a very specific technique that she used. A lot of the other fantasy artists at the time apparently were doing airbrushing, but she got a very specific sort of a stippled type texture, but she did it with a toothbrush and stencils. So she would cut out to get those background shapes.
Oh, yeah.
Splatter the paint with the different colors with a toothbrush to get this really rough texture. And it just adds to this really amazing atmospheric thing. So this was published in 1985 by US Games, and it is still in production. It's available online.
Wow.
I actually sell it in my online store, which is...
And how would people find that?
shop.housepanther.com, or you can go to housepanther.com and click on the online shop link. And this is actually kind of learning about Karen and her artwork was all happening around the time when I was kind of developing this other thing called House Panther Dark, which is like the witchier side of House Panther. So I actually have a booth at Witchcrafted out in Glendale. So there's the next one will be in October. And so I just sell and curate and make anything that's kind of mystical and witchy, but it has to have cats on it, right? So a lot of black cats. So I have some of these for sale online. And I want to frame every single piece of these. They're amazing. So in this artwork, in this body that's in the tarot deck, cats are are in there just like cats, but they're also integrated into the people's outfits, like as jewelry or part of their clothing, or they're in the architecture. There's a number of, some of the cards have musicians playing instruments, and the cats are like part of the instrument. So it's just all very sculptural and architectural, and you can see that background she had in the costume design coming through as well. So she uses cats very symbolically. So there are both house cats as well as the big cats, right? The big exotic cats and all of their symbolism around the panthers and the tigers and the lions and things. So this is how I was introduced to her. My friend gifted me this tarot deck, and then I just kind of was like, I need to learn as much as I can about her.
Right.
Yeah. So she worked in watercolors. She did oil paintings. She did tempera on sand a lot. She's also an expert at paper mache sculpture and photography. She made dolls. She did costume design and also jewelry design. So she just was all over the place.
Wow.
So,
she was like a Renaissance woman doing it all.
yes. So she had different media, but then also different styles. She also designed a line of medieval inspired furniture for the Jamestown Lounge Furniture Company in the 50s. And I can't find it, but I've seen reference to it now in a couple of places, but I can't find a piece that's actually attributed. But so if anybody can find it, let me know.
Wow. I mean, are you able to find catalog? I mean, now you've got me intrigued. I mean, I love a hunt. I'm like,
it was in the catalog. So I haven't gone down that path yet, but we've got to find a Jamestown Lounge Furniture Company catalog from the 50s or 60s, because I think they sold it for a while. I've seen references to that.
Okay.
So here's another weird thing, back to the list of all of the above, right? So in the mid 60s, she worked at the Casa Grande Dispatch as the only female editorial cartoonist in the country at the time.
Wow. So she was cutting edge in so many ways.
Yes, totally. She just did amazing things. So then I'm doing a little research, and I keep seeing references to Hitler and the Third Reich. And so she did this whole body of work in the 70s around that topic, where she was really exploring themes of power and abuse of power. And so she did a number of interviews with people who knew Hitler. And all of that is in the University of Arizona Special Collection. So all of those papers and those interviews around that body of work are in special collections. And that you can see those online, or you can see where they are. And then you can get the numbers and then go look at them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that's just crazy. So we had some pictures of the tarot deck.
And then we've got
yes, you can see. So here are some of the pieces, and we're going to talk a little bit about where they are. Paintings, as well as some of that jewelry, some of that wearable art, some of the sculpture, the three-dimensional stuff.
Oh, and a doll.
Right? And the doll.
I didn't even notice the doll earlier. I was so mesmerized by the cat medallion scarf necklace vest thing.
I just love it. I love it all.
Wow. I didn't even know there was a doll there until you said she did dolls. I'm like, oh, look, there's one of her dolls.
It's a tiny doll. Yeah, it's crazy. So she just did just a ton of stuff. And the tarot deck is definitely the thing I think that she's probably most well known for is the tarot deck. But we'll talk more about sort of what came out of the tarot deck in a second. Okay, that's good. All right.
All right. So which of these professional organizations was Karen involved with?
The Cat Writers Association. I am not sure if you've ever heard of it. Maybe you have. I am a very proud member of the Cat Writers Association, which is a professional organization for people who communicate about cats. Basically, it is all about sort of celebrating excellence in writing, as well as photography, art, video, anything that is communicating or writing about cats. And that can be educational, it can be fiction, entertainment. So there's each year there is the communication, the CWA communications contest, where we all submit our work from the previous year, and a panel of judges basically really goes through everything and judges it all based on, how well it's written and how well it communicates about cats. And they're looking at all different types of media, and they offer you win, so you can get a certificate of excellence, but then among everybody in that category, you may win the Muse medallion, which I have a few that I have won that I'm very proud of. And this was designed by Karen Kuykendall, because she was one of the first members of the Cat Writers Association. I believe it was founded in 1992. And so she was one of the first people to join, and then they asked her to design this, and it's this beautiful embossed medallion. And then they put your name and the award you won and the year on the back.
Oh, wow.
And then you also get the same design in a cute little pendant or like a lapel pin if you win. So I was just thrilled because this kind of all happened in succession. I got the tarot deck, and then I won one of these, and I was like, wait a minute, who designed this? And so I learned about that. When Karen passed away in 1989, the Cat Writers Association, in their annual contest, created a special award, which is the Kuykendall Image Award, that goes to an outstanding entry for an image, either a piece of art, or I believe photography qualifies for that as well. So anything that is part of the contest can get this special prize that has money and prizes attached to it. It's in her honor, because she was a really important part of that organization.
Wow.
Yes, who knew? There is also a Dog Writers Association. That exists as well.
But she did not design their medallion.
I don't think so. I think she was cat only. I
have a feeling she was cat only from just the sheer number.
Yes.
Wow.
So wait, okay. So she was a member of the Cat Writers Association, meaning she was a writer, and she was a wonderful writer. Everything that I've read so far in the books that I have, and the little snippets here and there that I can find, I love her style. I love her tone. I think she was a really fantastic writer. So she, her first book, which you might come across if you're searching for her, is actually not on here because I forgot to add it. It's called Art and Design in Paper Mache, and it was published in 1972. So she had this expertise. So it has nothing to do with cats.
So then all the jewelry then is paper mache?
Yes, I believe so.
So like, wait, because I was like, oh my gosh, because like that could be so heavy.
Right, because it's huge.
Mache.
Yeah, but remember, she learned theatrical. She learned costume design for film.
Right.
So that's where her background would come from. So it would be something that's more temporary, maybe lighter, but also bigger, and really for film or theater, something like that. So she actually has a whole book about that in 1972. That's the first one. Then in 1979, this is the book that I was showing you earlier, is Cat People and Other Inhabitants of the Outer Regions. So this is the book that once she started really getting into the sci-fi fantasy scene, that she published, because there was an audience for it. And I love this. So this is a first edition that I just got from Tucson. And so first edition 1979, and it was printed at Imperial Litho and Graphics in Phoenix, Arizona. And her publishing name, her company was Desert Diamond Co. here in Casa Grande. And so it's really a beautiful book. It's the color plates are gorgeous. It's on this thick paper. So this is self-published. And then she had two more books, another one I just bought on eBay the other day, called Karen's Cats and Karen's Cats Book 2. And these are black and white photographs of her cats, I believe, intertwined with stories about her cats. and those were also self-published. Then in 1987, so Karen's Cats and Karen's Cats book 2 were in 1980 and 1988. Also in 1987, she wrote another book called Everyday Cats, which I have yet to find a copy of. So if you see one, send me the link. But this one is my favorite. In 1989, so 4 years after the tarot deck came out, she self-published Cosmic Cats. So this is...
I want to see. Open.
It's 41 original paintings. This plate, these plates are the 4 elements. We have fire cat, aqua cat, air cat, and earth cats.
Wow.
And then, oh my God, I love them all. So this has a little foreword by her where she talks about how her cats inspired several of these. Like one day they all walked into the kitchen, a bunch of them, shoulder to shoulder, and that became Parade. Right. And then look at this guy. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful. Okay, I'm going to show you the picture.
Wow.
Right.
That necklace. I like, my gosh.
I have no words. So so much. And then the tarot deck came out. Oh, no. The tarot deck was 85. Cosmic Cats was 89. But then in 92, she published another book, which I also just bought on eBay, which is Tarot of the Cat People, A Traveler's Report. Because it's the story. So the tarot deck comes with a tiny book that I can't tell if this is her writing exactly. I think it is. I think she wrote this Instruction and Designs by Karen Kuykendall. So as most tarot decks do, they come with a little book that talks about each of the cards and their meaning. Well, this is also her interpretation of each of the cards. And first, it has an explanation of the outer regions. And so the entire tarot, so the tarot deck is 5 parts, right? You have the major arcana and then the 4 suits of the minor arcana. Well, the outer regions are divided into 5 kingdoms, and each kingdom aligns with one of those. And they have these fantastic names like Valpala and Thenosis. And so in this tiny little book, she just starts to build out each of the regions of the outer, or each of the kingdoms of the outer regions. And they are beautifully described and incredibly sci-fi. And then she talks about each card and the symbolism in each card. So this book, The Traveler's Report, I believe just expands on this and is the whole universe, because this is just images. There's no words. I'm like, I need the words. So she really did. She wrote about the whole, this universe, the sci-fi universe. She illustrated it with her paintings. And so I'm excited to get my hands on that one. And then in 94, so not too far before her death, there was another black and white. Well, actually, I think this one might be color. It's called Felinity. And it's the moods of Karen's Cats. So I believe more photography and writing. Then if you Google her, you will come across 2 other books, Mark of the Cat and Year of the Rat. Mark of the Cat, 1992, Year of the Rat, 2002. Those were written by Andre Norton, but they were based on this world of the outer region. Okay. So Karen was definitely in communication with the author. She's not a co-author or anything, but she expanded on the outer regions and the people that live there and their cats. So, and they're often sold as one book. You see them together. You can find Mark of the Cat alone, but Mark of the Cat and Year of the Rat are always combined together into one book.
Wow. All right. So, that makes us all wonder. So where can we see all of this art that she's created?
Yeah. So it's currently at the Mesa Historical Museum, but it took a minute to get there. So when she passed away in 98, her whole body of work, which contains over 1,000 pieces, it was donated to the Mesa Southwest Museum at the time, which eventually changed its name and became the Arizona Museum of Natural History, which is what it is today. But then I'm not sure at what point or how or why the entire collection went over to the Mesa Historical Museum. So that's where it currently resides. In 2016, they had a special exhibit that ran from July through December of 2016 called Strange Collections, Cat People of the Outer Regions, The Art of Karen Kuykendall. So I believe it sounds like I didn't get to see it because she wasn't on my radar, but it was the cat work, probably the tarot work and any of the outer region images and paintings that they have that involved cats. So then that exhibit came down, and now there is a permanent exhibit dedicated to her called The Artwork of Karen Kuykendall, Visionary Artist and Sculptor. So that is its own whole space at the museum that is permanently on view year round. And they do rotate out a few pieces occasionally. I have to go out and see it. I learned about it right when in the middle of lockdown, when everything was completely, so I was like, when am I going to go? And then I just haven't gotten out there. So we're going to go, right? We're going to go.
I'm completely up.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I believe that,
yeah.
I believe this permanent exhibit is her entire body of work that they have. So it's not just the cats, but it's some of the other pieces that don't necessarily have cats in it, but it's showing her whole range. So that opened in 2021 and has now been there. So, but they have even more in the archives, and they can't even put it all out. There's so much of it. So dying to see that.
Indeed. We will make that happen.
Yes.
All right. And so how many cats did she have?
So I'm sure it varied over the years, but in almost all of the biographies in these books that I have and the places I've seen her referenced, she tended to say, I have 16 cats. I live in the desert with my 16 cats, which is one more than I had at my high point. So
wow.
I had 15 at one point. But that 2 down at the studio on Grand Avenue and 13 at home. And so 16. So that's a lot. I can.
Yeah.
So Cat Lady. I did also read though that she didn't read tarot. So she wasn't into the super woo-woo stuff at all. She just liked that style of art. And
she found an audience that liked her art, so she just went with that.
Yeah, but she did really love cats, and in the way that any good writer or artist or creative person has a muse, right? This is actually what this is. This is called the Muse Medallion, specifically, and spelled M-U-S-E, not M-E-W-S, which you might think because cat ladies. So I do think that she very much, just from the things that I read, just had a great interest in cats and their symbolism and, them as creatures and animals, which is something that I have, because all of my writing, it's about celebrating cats and their beauty and their role in our lives as our companions. But then the cat behavior stuff that I do, which is the environmental design and the catification, is about understanding them as these predators that live in our house, these little creatures who we ask them to poop in a box and to behave a certain way and to not scratch the furniture. And we have to understand what their natural instincts are. And you only do that if you're fascinated by them, right? Otherwise, you're annoyed by them.
Right.
And so I'm just constantly fascinated with the cats and how they're behaving and, what makes them comfortable and what makes them happy and what makes them get along. And, how are they hardwired, and how, in my case, how can you create an environment that caters to those natural things? And so I feel like sort of a kinship with Karen, and how she just really loved to observe her cats and write about them. And I'm really excited to read some of the other books that I found from her. So I can't wait.
So okay, so she had 16, you have 13, all in the same space.
We currently have 12. We're down. We have had 13. We've had many over the years. They come and go. They age out.
I mean, growing up, it's like I had a cat.
Right.
How do they interact? I mean, because they don't really seem like pack animals. They're not like dogs.
They're definitely not. They're not at all pack animals in any way. And now we do have some sets of siblings, some who just, they couldn't care less about the other one. Like this one up here and her sister's here, and they don't interact. But then we have the boys, the 3 boys who are 4, and they do really interact and, groom each other and sit together. And there are some others that are more social. I mean, I do not recommend 12 or 13 cats for it. It's not ideal. It's a lot of work. And you have to be able to be responsible and feed them properly and take them to the vet and all those things. But for me, it's part of what I do, and it's research and it's understanding them. And in most cases, these guys were all rescued from some situation where they needed rescuing. And then a lot of them are personalities that no one else would adopt. So we have them. But that's what I do is I kind of understand, what are the things you need in a home to accommodate different types of cats, different types of personalities. Because you can have the bold, outgoing cat, you can have the very shy cat, you can have the bully cat. We have all of those. And so getting them to get along is tricky. And that's why, just 2 or 3 cats is a reasonable number, I think.
So where can people go buy some of your kind of modern House Panther things?
Well, definitely check out House Panther, HAUS, panther.com, which is my main blog where I write about really cool cat stuff from all over the world, all different manufacturers, tips and tricks, things that, you need to make your cat very happy and healthy. And, but it's mostly design focused, also a lot of like art and photography and things that celebrate being a cool cat lady, because that's the other big piece of what I do. It's like, you can do this and not look like the crazy cat lady, right? So you can have it be modern and beautiful and integrated into your home in a way that you love, so that you're not ashamed to have people come over. And so that's what I write about on the blog. There's a link to our online store, which has my products as well as a curated collection from some of my other favorite companies. Noble Beast, Strawberry Hedgehog, La Guitarra all have some of our handmade cat toys, things that are made down at the studio on Grand Avenue. And, just follow. We do a lot of giveaways and things on the website. All social media is House Panther. So follow wherever you get your information.
So Kate, for folks who don't know what a cat cafe is, can you explain what a cat cafe is?
Yes. So it's a concept that started in Japan, where a place where you could go grab a cup of coffee, and there were resident cats and like lounge chairs and places that you could sit and spend time with cats, because there is actually scientific research that shows petting a cat or an animal, but specifically a cat, with their frequency of their purr can be very calming. And also in Japan, a lot of smaller houses, people can't necessarily have their own cat. So it was a way for them to go and spend time with cats. The concept was kind of adapted when it came to the United States, so that you have the same thing, a big, beautiful open room with cats walking on furniture and all around, so that their personalities show through, but they're all adoptable. So cat cafes in the United States either are affiliated with, or they have their own element that has some sort of an animal rescue piece, right? They work with an animal rescue. And so the adoptable social cats who will be comfortable in an environment like that are put into the lounge space. And you can, some of them have food, some don't. Like in La Guitarra's case, they do have a coffee shop, because it's a separate space from where the cats are, with a separate air system, and you have to follow all the rules. And so I've worked on some cat cafes that have a food truck outside, and so you can go out there and get your food, and then you can bring it in. And So the idea is it's a place where you can just go spend time with cats if you want, or if you're looking to adopt a cat, you will probably see their personality better than if they're scared in the back of a cage, which unfortunately is still very common in a lot of shelter situations because it's just the most efficient way to house cats. But a lot of what I'm doing is helping to encourage more shelters to adopt a cage-free environment, or at least some sort of a place where cats can have some time out of cages. And it has to be designed a certain way. When you're talking about a shelter environment, it has to be, very durable and easily sanitized. But there's a lot of disease transmission worry, and so it's a different thing than residential catification. But the cat cafes really spurred that. This idea of being in a beautiful, comfortable space where cats are out and being themselves. And for me, I also think that, like, if the cat cafe is really well designed, you're going to sit there and you're going to go, oh, look at that. Look at that. I could do that at home. I like this idea here. I like this shelf. I like this scratcher. Adopt the cat, go home, do it at home. Now the cat is even happier. They have more of what they need. It's a way to get the word out there more. So my two books are Catification and Catify to Satisfy. And if you're looking to design your home for living with cats, those are kind of the number one resource.
Wow. Kate, thank you so much for sharing your passion of Karen Kukendall.
I can't wait for our trip out to Mesa.
I know. Oh my gosh. I mean, Mesa is so cool to begin with. So this just makes it even cooler.
I know. Right?
Yeah. So, okay. So we'll get on planning that date, our little Mesa date.
Awesome. I can't wait. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is fun.
Well, and we'll talk to Tiffany and see if we can, I bet Tiffany can help us get to the museum. She is the director of the Mesa Art Museum.
Oh, perfect.
So yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't believe that it's that big that they don't know. So, okay, I will reach out to Tiffany and we'll get working on that.
Great. Thank you.
Kate, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your night.
You too. Have my drink.
Indeed. Enjoy. Oh my gosh, Kate, thank you so much for coming on and doing that. That was great. So now I do always want to ask, and I got so caught up in the conversation that it's like, how did you all do? I know we didn't have that many questions, but there was just so much packed in those questions that it's like, it's going to warrant a road trip out to Mesa. Oh, darn, to go look at some art, which is always a good thing. So, again, thank you all for hanging out. Now we're going to talk about From the Vault. So with From the Vault, it's something you might drive by, not even know is there. There's kind of all kinds of little things that you can spot. And so this is actually a spot I did for Local Buzz, and we'll talk about it in just a moment.
Hey, Local Buzz, Marshall Shore, the hip historian here, and we are here at Baseline Flowers, and we have Kathy Nakagawa. And so the reason why we're here is because the history, you'll see the sign behind me that says flowers. This is the last trace of what, for almost 50 years, was an iconic scene in Phoenix. Being able to drive along Baseline and see these flower fields, growing flowers that people were buying. They were shipped all over the world. And it really evolved out of, you had farmers that sadly were then sent to Japanese internment camps. They came back and reestablished their farms, their families, and started a whole new life, again, creating what was a point of pride for Phoenix. And so you can come here, take a look at some flowers, buy some flowers, look at this great little gift shop. We're down here on Baseline and 38th Street, so come on down and visit. So this is why you should like, follow, share, because here on Local Buzz, we're going to be bringing you more history and lots of Arizona love.
So that was for, those amazing Japanese flower gardens that really, after World War II, that's when they took off. I think the last one sold in the mid-2000s. It's now from flowers. Housing has sprung up all along there. So, but you can go back through, there's all these postcards. People still lament when all those gardens were there and the smell must have been intoxicating. All those flowers So that's a point of pride. And also the fact that Kathy keeps that flower shop going as a testament to her family and kind of the tenacity of the Japanese flower gardeners. Now, my connection to this is, so Harmon Library that I came to New York for, when I first got here, people said, nothing will ever grow in Arizona in the summer. But the library had this community garden that was flourishing year round. I mean, in the middle of summer, it was bright green. And it was all those workers from the flower gardens who'd retired nearby were the ones working the community garden. And so that's my own little personal connection, is I never saw those flower gardens to the extent that everybody else did. Well, so many people did, but I still have a connection to those folks that did it. And they were really amazing at tending those plants and just making things green and lush. So now you'll see why I say, if you're watching on Facebook, there is that share button. So please click and share, because we are constantly bringing you Arizona history. And next week, oh my gosh, we have Psycho Steve Chilton from Rebel Lounge on. It's going to be so much fun talking about music history and lots of other stuff. So we will see you here in one week. So remember, if you have any questions or if you have any guests you would like to suggest, oh my gosh, please let them know. And please let me know as well. And so I always want to give a shout out to Chris and Cole, who did that great little intro video, as well as PJ for another outstanding cocktail. All right. And to say goodnight, we are going to watch a little bit of Keith Haring painting a mural in downtown Phoenix back in 1986. Have a good night, all, and I will see you soon.